Across the Philippine archipelago, danger does not always arrive with roaring winds or towering storm surges. Sometimes it comes quietly, sometimes it slips through riverbanks at night, and sometimes, by the time people realize what is happening, it is already too late. This is not a story about the biggest rivers in the country. It is not about the famous ones that dominate headlines every typhoon season. This is about the overlooked waterways, rivers that appear calm, familiar, even harmless, until they suddenly transform into destructive forces capable of erasing entire communities in a matter of hours. Today, we count down 10 rivers in the Philippines that could flood without warning, rivers where danger hides in geography, deforestation, urban growth, and climate extremes. What follows is more than a list. It is a journey through landscapes where water moves faster than warnings, and where survival often depends on minutes, not hours. Stay until the end, because number one is a river many Filipinos live beside every day without realizing how close disaster truly is. Let us begin. At number 10, the Marikina River runs through Metro Manila and Rizal. The name is already etched into the nation's memory, but its danger is still underestimated. The Marikina River winds through Rizal and Metro Manila like a silent artery, feeding communities, shaping cities, and quietly collecting rainfall from the vast Sierra Madre mountain range. On ordinary days, it appears almost peaceful, predictable, contained. But appearances here are deceiving. What makes the Marikina River dangerous is not just its size, it is its speed. When intense rainfall pounds the Sierra Madre, water rushes downhill with astonishing force. There is little time for absorption, little time for warning, and suddenly the river swells beyond its banks, turning streets into torrents and neighborhoods into temporary lakes. Urbanization has tightened the noose. Concrete replaces soil. Drainage systems strain under pressure. Tributaries clog with debris. When the rain intensifies, the river does not ask permission. It simply takes space. Communities along the riverbanks know this fear well. Floodwaters do not always rise gradually. Sometimes they surge, trapping families inside homes, cutting off escape routes, and forcing rooftop rescues under darkness and rain. The Marikina River does not need a super typhoon to become lethal. All it needs is sustained rainfall and silence before the surge. At number 9, Cagayan de Oro River, Misamis Oriental, a river shaped by mountains and made dangerous by them. The Cagayan de Oro River begins high in the Bukidnon Plateau, where steep slopes funnel rainwater directly into its channels. This geography creates a perfect recipe for flash flooding, where rainfall upstream transforms into devastation downstream with little to no warning. Here, danger travels overnight. Communities in Cagayan de Oro City have learned that floods do not always announce themselves with days of rain. Sometimes the city sleeps while mountains absorb the storm, and by dawn, water crashes into urban areas with terrifying speed. This river's tragedy is written in history. Tropical storm Sendong revealed how fast the river can rise, how violently it can move, and how unprepared even a major city can be when warnings fail to arrive in time. What makes this river particularly dangerous is the illusion of safety. On clear days, its banks host markets, roads, and settlements. The water looks manageable, familiar, until it is not. In Cagayan de Oro, the river does not creep. It charges. At number 8, the Panay River in Capiz is a river system that floods sideways rather than upward. Rather than dramatically rising in a single channel, its danger comes from its network of tributaries, smaller rivers and streams that overflow quietly, often before the main river shows any sign of trouble. This creates a deadly delay. Communities may believe they are safe because the river looks stable, but floodwaters are already spreading across flat terrain, slipping into rice fields, roads, and homes. By the time residents realize the danger, escape routes are already submerged. Sedimentation has worsened the threat. Years of soil erosion have reduced the river's capacity, meaning it overflows faster and wider than before. Add high tide conditions from nearby coastal waters, and the river loses its ability to drain. trapping floodwaters inland. Here, floods do not roar. They spread, and by the time they are visible, they have already won. Number 7. Abulog River, Cagayan Province. A river most Filipinos have never heard of, and that is precisely the problem. The Abulog River flows quietly through northern Luzon, overshadowed by the massive Cagayan River system nearby. It receives far less monitoring, fewer sensors, and less attention. But when rain falls over the Cordillera Mountains, Abulog becomes a conduit for disaster. Deforestation upstream has stripped the land of its natural buffers. Rainwater no longer seeps into forest floors. It rushes directly into the river, and when it does, the surge moves fast. Rural barangays along the river often receive warnings late, if at all. Floodwaters frequently arrive at night, when visibility is poor and evacuation becomes dangerous. The Abulog River does not flood often, but when it does, it floods brutally. At number 6, the Jalor River in Iloilo. This is a river where human control adds another layer of risk. The Jalor River winds through Iloilo, serving irrigation systems and communities alike. But its danger lies in narrow sections where water has little room to move, and in moments when dam releases coincide with heavy rainfall. When that happens, the river rises suddenly. Encroachment along riverbanks has eliminated natural floodplains. Homes, farms, and roads now sit where water once spread harmlessly. When levels rise, there is nowhere for the river to go except outward, into communities. Residents often report floods that feel unexpected, sudden, and overwhelming, especially when rainfall upstream is not mirrored by conditions downstream. Here, water behaves unpredictably, and unpredictability is what makes rivers deadly. Number 5. Ilog Hilabangan River, Negros Occidental. A long river with a slow reputation and a fast reality. The Ilog Hilabangan River stretches across Negros Occidental, fed by multiple tributaries descending from upland areas. During heavy rains, these tributaries act like funnels, sending water downstream faster than residents expect. The river's length creates a false sense of security. People assume flooding will take time to develop, but localized rainfall upstream can generate sudden surges that catch downstream communities completely off guard. Agricultural land use worsens the threat. Sugarcane farming has increased soil erosion, filling riverbeds with sediment and reducing depth. Less depth means faster overflow. Floods here do not just damage homes, they erase livelihoods. Number 4. The Kinatigan River in Misamis Oriental, a short river with long consequences. The Kinatigan River is deceptively small. It does not dominate maps. It does not make national news. But its steep watershed makes it dangerously responsive to rainfall. Even without a typhoon, intense rain can trigger flash floods that overwhelm nearby communities within minutes. There is often no gradual rise, no visible warning. Buffer zones along the riverbanks are minimal. Homes sit dangerously close to the water's edge. When the river swells, it takes everything in its path. Here, danger does not scale with size. It scales with speed. Number 3. Buayan River, Maguindanao. A river entangled with marshlands and uncertainty. The Buayan River interacts with vast floodplains and wetlands, which can either absorb water or amplify disaster, depending on conditions. During prolonged rainfall, these marshes fill quickly, and once saturated, they release water suddenly. Weak embankments heighten the risk. Breaches can occur without warning, sending floodwaters racing into villages with no time to react. In conflict-affected areas, evacuation is complicated. Warnings may not spread evenly. Resources may be limited. When floods arrive, displacement becomes prolonged and devastating. Here, water doesn't just flood homes, it destabilizes lives. Number 2. Ambalsimway River System, Maguindanao and Cotabato. A river system so complex that danger hides in its connections. The Ambalsimway system is not one river, it is a network. Channels weave through low-lying plains, linking to larger rivers like the Pulangi. During heavy rains, backflow becomes a silent killer. Water reverses direction, levels rise without rain nearby. Communities flood without understanding why. Low elevation means floodwaters linger, turning homes into islands for weeks. Crops rot, Diseases spread, recovery slows. This is flooding without spectacle, but with enormous cost. Number 1. The Salug River in Zamboanga del Norte. Understudied, undermonitored, underestimated. The Salug River drains mountainous terrain that responds aggressively to rainfall. Logging and land conversion have stripped hillsides bare, accelerating runoff and increasing flood intensity. When rain falls upstream, water rushes downstream with shocking speed. Communities often receive no official warnings. By the time the river rises, escape routes are already submerged. At its mouth, coastal conditions make things worse. High tides block drainage, forcing water inland. This river doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives, and when it does, it leaves devastation in silence. 10 rivers with 10 hidden threats. 10 reminders that danger does not always come from the sea or the sky. Across the Philippines, smaller rivers, overlooked, under-monitored, and underestimated, are becoming flashpoints for disaster. Climate change intensifies rainfall. Deforestation accelerates runoff. Urbanization removes natural defenses, and communities pay the price. Floods without warning are the most dangerous kind. They rob people of time, the one resource that can mean the difference between escape and tragedy. But awareness changes outcomes. Understanding these rivers, how they behave, why they flood, and who they threaten, is the first step toward preparedness, better planning, and ultimately, survival. If this documentary opened your eyes, share it. If it made you think, speak about it. And if you want more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our world, subscribe to the channel, because knowledge moves faster than floodwaters. And sometimes it is the only warning we get.